you know, these analysts, you can't just say somebody took it. Don't work like that. Oh,
Zoom to join the YouTube. Anticipate it. It's live now.
Otherwise, it wasn't very horrible, but
yes,
yeah.
it must have been.
Right. Yep. Right, we'll start the meeting. Good evening and welcome to this meeting of Woodley Towns Council Committee Strategy and Resources Committee being held on 22nd of November 2022. Woodley Town Council meetings are now recorded, with the recordings streamed live and stored on the Town Council's YouTube channel. By virtue of attending the meeting, you consent to having your image and audio recorded for this purpose. If you do not wish for your image and audio to be recorded, then please do not stay for the meeting. For those in attendance, we're not expecting a fire drill tonight, so if you hear the fire alarm, please head to the nearest fire exit and congregate at the fire assembly point by the Oakwood Centre at the front of the Woodford Park. So, item 1, apologies.
Yes, we have apologies from councillors Lewis and Wicks.
Thank you. Any declarations of interest?
Mr. Chair, item 15, the allotment rent review. As an allotment holder, I thought I'd declare an interest. I don't think I need to leave the meeting. I'll just, I'll keep quiet. I'll try anyway.
Says that was Wicks. Any other declarations of interest? No. Move on to item 3, minutes of the meeting held on 22nd of September 2022. Can I sign these as a correct record? Yes, thank you. I'll do that at the end. Finance, budgetary control, to receive report SR 2722 on page 7. With you, Kevin.
Thank you. Yes, just to note there, really, expenditure is below budgeted, which is the right way around, even given some of the items in there that are upfront costs early on in the year. There are a couple of things that are a little over anticipated in terms of there's some staff costs and some other elements in there that you can see are identified as being over. Income wise is slightly under, although I think there's a couple of things offsetting that. Oakwood Centre is lettings income is over that budgeted. I'll say a little bit more about that when we get to the potential report. In terms of income to point out, I'll do that later on.
Any questions, comments?
Yeah, I just wondered, Kevin, whether there's sort of, you know, because I know you might get sort of up a little bit at one point and then down a little bit, sort of over a financial year, but I just wondered whether you're seeing some sort of pressures which you think actually going to sort of actually mean that your costs are going to be actually higher than you really predicted, because under corporate management, you're saying several things are over 58%, even if it's only by a little bit, and repairs and maintenance costs are over 58%. So I just wondered if there's any trend.
We are finding that things are more expensive to buy across the board.
Right, yes.
So we have to make different choices to
Oh,
offset some of that and perhaps
Right.
review and do something.
oh,
But we will be drilling down into that in more detail, because there are some areas that are more affected than others.
oh, right. Okay, thanks. And then another thing was, you say central costs income seems to be doing well. Is that because interest rates have gone up? Is that a factor?
Not in terms of the investments that are in there.
Oh, right, it's not. Okay.
I could do with a bit more detail actually in terms of why that figure is that.
All right.
If I can have a bit more and circulate that numbers. That's
Okay, thank you.
Could I just ask a clarifying question, Kevin?
Yeah.
Under democratic costs, there's training costs for councillors over budget. Could you tell me how much the training budget is?
It does have its own budget.
It-
I'm not sure how much is in there.
So does it sit? It sits under democratic costs. It's not. It's part of this budget.
It's under SNR, yes, but it's
Could you just let us know at some point?
Actually, yeah, there is under democratic costs. Yeah, I'll find out how much.
Thanks, that's great, yeah.
Could we have the detail, please, of why that's off? I don't remember having a lot of training.
No, the only training I think we've done is that evening on sharing.
It was, but I think there wasn't much in there.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Training budget, because I think we could probably have a review of how much we've got in a training budget, because we need some.
Just to build on what Juliet says, historically, we put a peppercorn sum in there. We've never really gone at it, proper training, like the chairing. And I think going forward, that's something we need to consider, because I think the training was really good for those of us who run it. And I think it just it raises the level of professionalism of councillors and officers as well.
I think if we just had a year's plan every year for how we're going to spend it, then if we know the budget, we can stick to it.
There's more available at the moment as well. I've seen quite a few things come sort of online in the last 12 months that just weren't around before. So I think looking forward.
I can let you know that the amount in the budget for this year was £300.
Yeah.
Yeah, so perhaps we need to, when we set budgets, if we could consider that.
One of the things we need to be careful of as well is we're in the last year of the
Yes, I know.
election cycle, and I'm very cautious that we don't necessarily set things running for which the new council, whether we're here or not, has to pick up. I think it's can be inappropriate to tie them in.
I just
But it's a
think,
recommendation.
yeah, and I think with new people, there's even more of an imperative.
Absolutely.
And maybe we don't set a whole budget, maybe we set, I mean, my only marker is the NHS, but they have a CPD budget per councillor. So, if you have, I don't know, 50 quid a year per councillor or 100 quid a year per councillor, that feels, like a fair.
Very, very busy, but do you think you put some thoughts down on paper?
Yeah,
to
yeah,
get it through?
yeah.
Kevin?
Yeah.
I think you're probably, out of all of us, I think you're the most experienced person in this whole area of training, etc.
Yeah, okay.
Who pays then for the new councillors? I was sent to a councillors training when I was first elected. Who paid for that?
That would have come out of whatever
Budget.
training.
All right, and does this continue on every time we have new councillors? So did 4 years ago with people like Martin go on did you go on a?
I wasn't the same man as you.
No, mine was 8 years ago.
Was it?
It's
not.
I went on one.
Yeah.
When I first started, it's not mandatory.
No,
it's
I know.
voluntary. And in the past, not many people have taken it up because they don't have the time or whatever.
I think everybody went on that.
I'd
That
be
year,
honest,
there were
yeah.
quite a few of us, yeah. But I just wondered if there was no budget, who paid for it? Where
It's
did that come
interesting,
from?
actually, that you raise it, because the one I went on wasn't just Woodley Town Council.
No, there were other
was
people
from
from
all over.
Parkhurst and,
I
yeah.
suspect there was more money put in that year for new councillors coming in because it.
So because of the new, the election, yeah.
Yeah, would that cover something, don't they, for new councillors?
I went to Bracknell for mine, sort of.
No, mine was over in Calcott Way somewhere.
Right. Yes.
So just to corroborate what Juliet's saying, at my work, we're getting lots of training coming through all the time now, much more than we used to. Fraud training, all sorts of things. So I think that is the current way, really.
I've got to pick and choose a bit, haven't you? But I think
Well, not
it's
really,
quite
it's all
forward.
mandatory for me, but. It comes through.
Right, bringing us back, because we've got quite a lot on the agenda. Is there any other comments or questions on that? That's to receive, so I'll move on. We have to approve the payment as set out on page 9. Okay. Any questions?
Not on pages 9 and 10.
Can I ask one on 11?
Yes.
I'll get in before what can we pay the 3 Bristol 601 storage box for from Yorkshire Trading Company? What sort of crystals?
Can you guide, whereabouts is it
Right
halfway
at the
down?
back, right at the bottom of the page, isn't it?
Oh, I've got it.
That's only because I'm nosy.
I've no idea.
It's because it's Yorkshire and you're Lancashire.
that the name of the make?
Yeah,
Well,
they're just like storage containers.
Oh, yeah.
If we
Rather
have
than being
60
crystals.
litre-
Oh, yes, 60
60 litre storage box.
Have you got 60 boxes of crystal stashed away somewhere then?
We've been investing in, isn't it?
I'm not sure where that was for.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah, can I just ask on page 11, Chew Valley trees, so a tree or trees have been bought in memory of the Queen. Where did they go?
Out here in the park, to the back of the centre.
Are they no marked in any way?
Yes, there.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, I'm really good.
Any more? Any more? Why do we need to spend sorry, I'll take your pardon.
okay, it's okay.
What is a £442 PA system? Why, is that a microphone for in here?
So page 11.
Sorry, page 11, yeah.
It's
Here's the music.
It's for use in the, for events comes from, that budget for things that we've done, like, we'll be able to use it for, probably for Remembrance. We used it for the Remembrance Sunday event as well. We used it for events in here, and we had a few more this year. Actually, we used Matthew's from home this year because we didn't have one, for the civic events and the one in the town centre and out here.
I fully understand that we need a microphone of some sort for these sort of events. But surely it's more than just a microphone.
Yeah, it's a PA system, so it's a powered mixer head with two large speakers, stands, and the whole caboodle. Yeah.
Right, okay. It just struck me.
Well, just going on, I suppose. On page 13, Southern Electric, £624 on electrical supply columns. Where did they go?
Just trying to find that.
It's roughly halfway down, 20th of October.
All right.
Is that columns in the town centre? No?
No, it's not new columns. It's oh, sorry, no, electrical supply. Yeah, it's power, so it's energy. So that probably is the town centre actually. Yeah.
Okay. I think a lot, but how much? 600?
£624.
It says columns though.
Yeah. But there are supply columns in the mid distributed around the
Yeah,
room.
but that's different than electrical supply, isn't it?
Well, those columns have
Yeah, to
electrical
the electrical supply to the columns
Oh, right.
rather than
and they're used every.
Oh, right.
Can you,
But the
can you
bills,
clarify?
yeah,
that?
the
Get
bills
that.
do get split between our other lighting and the town centre, so I'll clarify.
The only electricity we pay for it, our bill is about £16 a month or something like that. It's fairly small beer, really.
Yeah, that might be the.
Might be changed, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
Hopefully not.
Just shouldn't jump back, but on page 12, assets, technical and resource solutions, that's a fire risk assessment, I think, isn't it? £5,358.
7th of October.
That's three quarters of the way down, page 12.
That's it.
What's it called? Facets. So.
Yes.
7th of October. Big one.
Yeah, so to check, that might be the new fire alarm
Yeah.
installation at the halls,
Oh, right,
which is part of the capital programme, the agreed capital programme works.
because I thought you'd had to do something about fire. That company, it does fire risk assessments or something.
I think that's probably what it is, because we put new fire system in Chapel Hall and Coronation Hall
Oh,
through the capital programme, so it's probably that, but I'll check.
oh, okay, thank
I
you.
don't recognise the company name, but
No, that's I'll tell you what it is, does it, the name? And then on page 14, near the bottom, Forceps Systems Limited, £6,236.
yeah, that was the irrigation system for the bowls.
Ah, right, that's what I was going to ask, yes.
Which was approved through this committee.
Yes, yeah, okay, thank you, that's it for me.
Anything else? The public sector funding looks good.
Actually, can I,
Well,
I'm just, actually, what is the second section? What is it? What is it? What is the money that's been invested?
So, yeah, so you've got the £2 million, which is the fund in relation to this building very specifically.
Yeah,
The 736, basically the rest of the council's money that the council decided to put into, it's in a separate account, but with the same organisation.
So that's like reserved.
Yeah. we have the same protections.
right, okay, thank you.
Anything else? Otherwise, can I vote, have a show of hands to approve those? All those in favour, please show. Unanimous. Okay. Oh. PSDF, we've just been asking about, that's to note. A note to the public sector pay award. What percentage was that?
It wasn't done as a percentage. It was slightly unusual in that there was a fixed payment across the board, which in effect provides a staggered percentage rate depending on which row.
And they get an extra day of annual leave. Good. Okay. Item 5. We need to make a decision on this. At the Leisure Services Committee, they had this same issue that now with the 2 councillors no longer available, the division, the proportionality has changed. So any working party or subcommittee that had a previous number of members of 4 doesn't work. So we've got suggestions of 3, 5, and 6, and Matthew set up. All those options will work. The Leisure Services Committee, just for your information, went for the 5 slot, mainly because that means that the Conservative membership stays the same, the Liberal membership stays the same, and Labour gain a seat. And the continuity, that's what Labour were actually, not Labour, sorry, the Services Committee recommended and was approved. Carol.
Yes, could I propose that we adopt the 5 as well for this
Second that.
these subcommittees?
Is there any dissenting voices? Do we need to have a debate or can we go straight to that? All those in favour, please show. So I hesitate to put you on the spot. Martin, is there any idea of who the Labour person would be for the investment subcommittee, risk management subcommittee, standing orders, PR and marketing, personnel, and youth services working party?
Right, we have agreed between us, but I forgot to bring it.
Okay. Can you let?
We do know, I'll let them know.
Happy to accept that in between meetings, just so we can.
Yes.
Yeah.
But can we
Well, it's straightforward, it's one of 3 of us and we have split it up.
It's only that the standing was required.
so can you then circulate that to all councillors so that they know that that's happening? Thank you, Martin.
Can I just say also, sorry, we have an extra vacancy on the PR and marketing subcommittee, as that place had previously gone to Councillor McCann. So there's a Liberal Democrat place there as well, if that.
Carol, can you recommend anybody?
Is it likely to meet before the end?
Might do one.
Just thinking, I don't know. Jeff's got enough to do. I'm not sure about Richard. I'd better volunteer myself, I think. Make it easy.
It's a virtual meeting, isn't it?
Yeah, they all are.
Makes it a little bit easier. Okay. You might want to, now that that's finished, just reissue, the sheet with all the memberships.
Yeah, I'll make
I
sure.
know we've only got 6 months left, but.
No, I'll make sure everything's reissued, just so everyone knows on those numbers.
Okay, moving on to item 6, Oakwood Centre income update. Looks good. And 16, Do you want to?
Yeah, if I may, I just wanted to point out a couple of things. Page 16, you can see that the yellow line in there, room hire, is tracking above budgeted. There was a request last time to also show that we were pre-COVID, that's top line green, and as you can see, we're not there. That's the intention, is to try and get back up to that level, and that is where the bit of work we're doing to review the business plan for the centre, which we'll come back to that in our marketing subcommittee as well, will come in. We have got better news on the catering. On page 17, catering income there is well above where we thought it might be. That came back really strong. It's been doing very well. It's been still benefiting from Park One and the other events we've had. Doing well.
Is the catering income confidential?
No.
Okay. If you want to ask the question.
Can we explain why one's up and one isn't? Is the catering income mainly from the cafe rather than events?
So it's both in that figure. So that's the
But then the room hire is not following the same tracking.
no. So proportionally, it's more the cafe, the coffee shop. Used to be the other way around. Once upon a time, when we first started doing it, it was very much the business catering was the thing, and that was almost an add-on. It's the other way around.
I can actually, on the income chart, I was just looking, the grey line, which is actual 2019 2020, right? If you look at the March figure, which is the latest figure we've got, it's 12,000. Yet if you look at the graph, it's not 12,000. So the data in the table seems to be inconsistent with the graphs.
Data drives the graphs. Which one? On the 1920 is showing 12,671, and the line is at 12,671 on the grey.
Hang on.
Yeah, so it's that 12, not the start.
Oh,
It's the last- the last
okay.
month.
So we'll say, oh, yes, got it. That's the October one.
Yeah.
Right, thank you. Any other questions?
Can I just make an observation? It sounds like criticism, but I find this almost impossible to read because of the font size.
Yeah.
I mean, you would help me enormously to participate if I could really read it, but I really can't.
We'll see if we can.
My eyesight isn't adequate. I mean, maybe we could just, truncate it and just show where we are now and maybe the last couple of months or something, just so that we can increase the font size.
You can change the font size of the data point.
It will print out, doesn't it?
Yeah, I can change some of the numbers. I can't. Obviously, the chart fits on to be A4 as it is. You're right.
But
And
the
I can put the
data-
tables, the data tables, which is new this time, I can separate and put on another page in a bigger font. Absolutely. No
I
problem.
know I'm coming across as a grumpy old sod, but it really is very small.
I agree, Martin. And I think the colours are not as bright as they could be.
I think that's a photocopying because they're all photocopied from the original.
Yeah,
so-
because what looks different on the screen to what comes out in the photocopy.
What you might want to do is play around, keep the colours, but play around from a solid line to dotted line to a dashed line to a dot dash line.
I know I've taken out some extra numbers in there because they were all overlaying and it was making it quite difficult
Yeah.
quite difficult to read, which is why.
Could you do a thicker line?
Do thicker lines.
If you want to be really pedantic for accessibility, you shouldn't be using green or red.
This is a design by committee.
People are colourblind.
But no,
So-
Mostly men, mostly
Yeah,
men.
mostly men.
To be fair, they're just the colours that
No, I know.
automatically.
Generated. No, I get it. I get it. I think your idea of truncating it is probably the best because then at least you see the trend.
Yeah, I think perhaps we'll have a look at it. I think it is important from the discussion last time that kind of tracking through the year was shown, which is why that request was there for that pre-pandemic period. But you're right, I think we could perhaps
There may be a
improve
different-
little bit, the most recent bit.
There could be a different kind of graphical representation.
Yeah. We moved to this a few meetings ago. Because previously, it was basically on the table, really hard to pick stuff up. So this is a movement.
And changing the numbers, the font size is actually very, very easy.
Oh, yeah.
And that, I think, would address your point. There's no more questions. Back to note. A and B. We're now moving on to item 7, climate subcommittee, page 18. This is to note. Carol,
Do we know the date? Well, we probably do, and I've forgotten. Do we know the date of the next meeting, please? Has it been set?
Yeah, they were all set and circulated. I can't remember what it is, but it's, I think it's
January. Yeah, it's early, very
first
early.
week of January.
Okay, I thought it had been set. I'm keen to make sure it happens. Thank you.
any other questions?
Yeah, on page 20, environmental review, I just wondered, what's the context of the table? I don't think it's connected to the text on pages 18 and 19. I don't think it's introduced. Yeah, maybe so.
I can answer that if it helps.
Please.
It was an example of a questionnaire that had been set by somebody else. I haven't got the details here, but we were looking at if we decided to ask people what they were doing and to encourage them to do more, then these were sorts of questions. But I think we all agreed that these were probably, a lot of them were a lot more involved or technical than they needed to have been. So yes, it's kind of got a bit separated from what we were discussing, but it's just been.
There's a reference to it on the previous page.
Page 19, at the beginning, at the paragraph that says Councillor Jewell.
Oh, right, so, appendix 1. Oh, right, okay, right, thank you.
Paragraph after that, Chairman, it says, the next meeting to discuss. So perhaps we should discuss with him, discuss how would
I'm guessing
I might be able to assist with promoting the aim.
is whereabouts in the, is it here or
The request was for Brian to attend the next meeting of the Climate Emergency Subcommittee, so that went straight through to Brian after the meeting, and I think.
That's right, yeah.
so it's not necessarily here?
No,
Yeah, that's what I said I go to, yeah.
Any other questions? Was it a note? The updated climate emergency action plan on page 21. It's still a living document. It's something we've got anywhere near where we need to get to, but it's getting there. It's getting there, I think. So that's appendix 8, 21. And that's all the response to it, isn't it, as well? That's another-
Yeah, that's true.
Okay,
So the document looks a bit similar.
all right, okay. That's to note. So moving on to item 9. Sorry, yes, Sam.
Page 23, investigate potential for installation of solar panels at Coronation Hall. What was the problem with that?
There was a ratio really of roof size to power that could be generated and how it would work through the same arrangement we had for this building with fire letters. It doesn't mean that it's not possible, but that round of funding or that round of projects through Reading Community Energy Society stopped, and that they did look at that at the time. It wasn't a viable one, so we've kept it on the list for it might be possible to do. But at the moment, that arrangement that we had for this, which was great, is a zero cost one.
Yes, yes.
Is currently sort of other options for it.
Oh, right, okay, so yeah, there's sort of benefit to.
Julia?
Yeah, you know what I'm gonna
finished,
say,
actually.
sorry, go on.
Oh, so we'll
No. Well, I just want to say something about this, that you're storing, you knew I would. So your mitigation for that 100% green gas thing, you're going to swap providers. You've got a mitigation, haven't you?
Which one are you looking at, Juliet?
The first one where it says move to 100% green gas, your mitigation bit, well, you call it notes, but I mean, it should be mitigation. But you're saying when the contract comes up for renewal. So is that what you're going to do? You're going to change to another supplier, or what's the mitigation for that?
Yeah, so at the moment, although it's technically, it's offset carbon neutral,
Yeah.
but isn't necessarily the same thing.
Right.
So yeah, we've changed to a.
So you've got a plan.
Yeah.
So you can downgrade it. Doesn't need to be 9 if you've got a mitigation that you're going to put in place against it. Because otherwise you're going to do what happened last time and then end up with hundreds of high numbers. Sorry, just a risky geek. Well, if there's some of them aren't mitigations, so they probably need rewording, but it should be mitigation, not notes. Because that's the whole point in it. You've identified a risk and what you can do about it.
Sorry. Discovered that there's no.
No, and there might not be any
I don't think
mitigation, in
the
which
intent- I
case
don't
the
think the
numbers
intention-
stay high.
So when we looked at the priority scoring, I don't think the intention was the same as risk. It was to try and set which of the actions had almost the highest impact to lowest cost. So if something was really cheap to do and would have a massive climate benefit, then that would be something we would prioritise highly to do because it has the best benefit for the least cost. So using those scoring, try and put the actions that would give us the best benefit would be the highest priority to do. So the aim would be to work through all the ones that are red first because they have been identified as being the best benefiters to the carbon.
But also the highest,
go down.
not necessarily, because you're looking at the cost versus priority, aren't you?
Yeah, so that it's picking the easy wins.
Yeah.
So the low cost, easy to do is again.
That's the aim.
So-
Priority scoring on page 22.
Right, okay.
Yeah, the aim is that hopefully the things that are the highest numbers are the best things for us to
Yeah,
focus
okay.
on.
I've got it, sorry, it maybe just needs a bit of labelling. I didn't get that from the,
It needs to be the other way around. So the best one is green and the worst one is red.
yeah, I understand what we've done there. This is about which one you're going to target, I
Yeah,
understand.
it's a prioritising.
Can I just make a suggestion for the future, particularly post May? And there could be a lot of new people here. Just add some text in there to explain.
I understand, as minute it's explained, I understand it, but that's not what I read.
We'll definitely get some wording in there to change.
Sorry, Anne.
Yes, okay. On page 24, and it's possibly the same question in a way, on page 25, you've got, on page 24, you've got installed LED lighting at the leisure centre and LED lighting floodlights at the leisure centre. And actually, get the second one. Install LED lighting at the leisure centre, sports hall, and it says complete, but the wording doesn't make it sound complete. So is the LED lighting thoroughly installed?
Yes, it is, and that wording didn't have the updated.
The intention of the notes was to retain some information on what has happened,
Yes.
history as to what had happened and when. So that when something was complete, that would be there. It could be removed, but
Yeah.
Well, actually, I would have thought if you just put after it completed or something, that would be fine.
Well, you've
Because I don't
got,
see why you shouldn't hold on to the history.
you've got complete on.
Yeah, okay.
progress.
Okay, yeah. So, and actually the same applies, yes, so here we are. Install LED lighting at chapel halls, so it's the same thing. It says amenities manager obtaining quotes, but it was,
Yeah, those notes are technically out of date.
Okay, okay. Well, in that case, page
the
20,
idea is just to give it. We want a history.
Yeah, but you don't need to see the history, do you? You can archive it in the background.
I would agree, but.
Well, just only because as you do more and more,
Emergency group.
once it is, that's fine, that's fine.
I think it's a matter of tense. We just need to change the tense in those notes once it's completed.
You could end up with one line of active and 3 pages of archived. And that then starts getting.
I think perhaps the way to view it is similar to do with the project schedule is when it comes back to be reported each time, it's on there for reference at that meeting. Then
Then,
comes
yeah,
off.
yeah, very sensible, very sensible.
This may be the same, no, it's not the same thing, is it? Page 25, second item, installing water butt at Woodley Bowls Club. What is the progress? Oh, yes, because completion date November. Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah, it's going in as we speak, actually. It's a part of the irrigation system.
Oh, right, okay, thanks. Yeah.
It's huge.
They're working under floodlights.
Is that, well, it's a very big water butt.
Yes, it is.
And then on page 26, the bottom right item, investigate option for low intensity land management areas. What does that mean?
Areas left to grow more rather than continually mowing them and keep them if we need to. That's some more wildlife areas and areas left for wildlife.
Right, so presumably, do they exist at the moment?
Some options for where it's appropriate to do that. So it's a bit of balance. But
Yes, quite, yes. Okay, thank you.
Can I pick that up before you go on to your letter now? Is, can we have some plain English? No, if land management, low intensity land management areas, we're talking about, as an example,
more wildlife.
wildlife or wildflowers areas.
Yes, yeah.
Sorry.
No,
And that should be flowed all the way through using plain English. For us oldies to understand.
Yeah, page 29, introduce recycling points in the parks. Use segregated litter bins in the parks and buildings. And what's it saying? Benefit one low sort of thing. But I think there's a great public benefit with that sort of thing, because I think it would raise awareness, and the public would feel that, you know, that the council was trying to do the right thing. I think it would be very visual, but I suppose in terms of actual litter, it might be a low benefit. I don't know.
those are tricky ones. We haven't found a
Yes.
solution that would work at the moment. We're talking to a lot of other councils.
Oh, is that right?
Trying to do it, and it's a tricky one because of the segregation. It's quite a difficult one to do.
Oh, right.
It's being contaminated.
Oh, yeah, I suppose, yes. Yes, people will put things in the wrong places, won't they? Yes. Maybe that's- Oh, another one that didn't seem quite up to date, page 32. Enhance, oh, yes, that's what I wanted to say. Page 32, second item down, enhance town council webpage to include borough and nationwide initiatives and information. I did have a look at the climate emergency tab on the town council webpage, and it didn't seem very up to date.
No, it's not. That's why that's on there. It's a work in progress, but that will be happening fairly shortly. I'll be working through with the communications manager to get that page together.
Oh, right, okay, right, thanks. That's it for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's to note. So now we move on to 9 standing orders and financial regulations subcommittee. These items here, certainly item I, the first one, were originally approved by the working parts and subcommittee. Then came back to standing orders, came back to the special resources, and it was sent back to the subcommittee just to review, which they have done. And in essence, correct me if I'm wrong, Matthew, there's no change from what the original intention was. So they're coming back now to approve, to go to full council to do the final approval. Any questions? We have actually debated this a lot. Okay, so all those, so I'll take two separately because I cognizance recognise that the first one, it can be controversial. So we'll work on that one first. All those in favour of this recommendation going forward, please show. It's unanimous. Then item 2 is to do the financial regulations. That was actually additional information, wasn't it?
It's a new change, yes.
Yeah, driven by the law, I guess, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was one of, we got an updated, some guidance, and we updated financial regulations based on one part of it, hadn't looked at the second, and the second was to do with electrical vehicle charging points and whether councils can claim money for that. But included in that guidance was also about claiming money for selling electricity back to the grid. So that was what that was about.
Okay, so we've now adjusted.
That's now adjusted that and included.
So,
Yeah.
so can I go to the vote on that? All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Okay. Another multicolour chart coming up. Risk Management Subcommittee, page 28. Do you want to introduce this, please?
Yeah, just to say, historically, that subcommittee then met annually after the year, before the year end. More meetings of that subcommittee were requested in this year, which is why we've had a review of just on the risk register at this point in the year. And the next meeting will review the risk strategy, risk management strategy as well. There are some changes to the format. It's still quite a big document with a lot of things in there. There is a requirement at the level of the subcommittee to look at the detail of those, because that is the purpose. But what we've tried to do is to at least focus in those first few pages what those high risk ones are and separate some of those things out so it's clearer for members to see that and to sift through.
And again, the font size.
Yeah,
I think that's even smaller.
Yeah.
Font size.
It used to be on sort of folding sheets of A3 as well, which was quite difficult to manage. But
We all need laptops with screens that you can go out.
Can you take it away? And
Yeah.
if the table has to go over 2 pages, it's going to have to go over 2 pages.
It's normally printed out on A3 when it's the actual contents are looked over. This was more to give an indication of the overall change
in format,
rather
than
than specific detail and stuff.
But yeah,
But yeah,
So I know, I don't know why you've moved away from this, but originally we put arrows. So I know you've got the old score and the new score, but actually arrows up, arrows down, or arrows in, equilibrium. Just, if you just stuck that as an extra column on the end, I know I've said it before, would make it easier to just see what's up and down and not. I mean, it's perfectly clear, you can see it from the numbers, but if you're not used to looking at the risk registers, at least you can see whether it's gone up, down, or.
I think the question has to be asked. What is this document being presented to us to do? If it's so difficult to understand, to read, because the font, etc., what is the point about it coming here? So maybe the risk management subcommittee could highlight maybe half a dozen items in here that the SNR should look at, and that way you can span it out without giving you 20 pages.
So I think that was asked at full council, wasn't it, last year? I think it was Councillor Anderson said it. So the intention was that pages 50 and 51 in here, which are essentially the new additions, they pick out the risks that are high, the risks that are borderline, so that they can keep an eye on. All the lower risks are in the rest of the document, and that wouldn't be brought to any higher than this standing committee or full council. And then underneath that, there's also those that have had a risk score reduced, so you can see where that change would happen.
But what you've done is you've done that, but we've also got the full copy of the risk register, and maybe we should just have those 2 pages done in a spread over so we can read it.
I think it's because it's included as it's an appendix to the report itself, to the report of the meeting, to show that this is what was agreed at the meeting, as opposed to the risk register being provided here to be considered, if you see
Yes.
what I mean.
Yes.
Can I just make a point? In some distant past in my life, it was my misfortune I had to prepare things like this, just as you, Matthew, have had to prepare it for this meeting. And in those days, what I was required to do was bring to the attention of the management of the project those things that were a risk and ignore the rest. It was what you had to consider and what you had to address. Anything that required the management's action and was of high risk. And really, apart from the problem I have with this tiny font, I'm not going to read all this. I'm just not. I don't have. I think I like to, sure.
I think one of the things is there is a requirement for members to have the information, because ultimately you're responsible for making sure that work's been done.
You've got filing cabinets back there full of stuff that you haven't given me access to.
No.
Not that you've avoided giving me access to it, but there is reams of paper that I as a council don't get to see. I'm just making the point that in my experience, normal management, it is the stuff that is important and of concern.
The point of this particular document in here is that this is a report of that meeting that took place. This was presented in the agenda to that meeting as a new form of the document, and because that was approved by this meeting, it's been included in the report of that meeting. Because reports of that meeting get reported to the parent committee, that is why this is included, and that is why it's come here.
So can I just ask you to put one thing on this that's really important that isn't on there? I don't know when these risks were raised. So there is nothing on here that says Q1 22, Q2 20, because some of these I know have been on here for a while, and that's absolutely right, because that should be a red flag to that risk committee saying this risk has been on here at 9 for 3 quarters. What are we doing about it? And I can't tell that from this. Now, I'm sure you can, because you can track the risk number back and you can look at your original documentation and see when it was raised. But at a glance, I can't see how old these risks are.
And the resolution, I take your point, this is a copy of what went to the meeting, but item 4 resolved that the risk register be presented to the Strategy Resources Committee and Council. That resolution could be changed to say that the highlight or whatever works, those 2 pages could be, and in terms of your point about the full risk register we all should get, doesn't have to be in different answers here, because we're only a subset of all the councillors. And so what potentially is the suggestion is when the risk management subcommittee meet, you actually send out all councillors, it highlighted, I've separated as 2 documents, the highlight plus the full register as 2 separate documents. And then this committee purely just looks at the highlights, lowlights. I don't know if you all agree that sort of approach. Because the psychological, the more paper you put in the agenda, the more difficult it is to flag through it. Just get that view, that psychology that says, God, this is ridiculous. How can I get this? And you don't even bother. So, and we sort of.
I think that's okay. And I obviously wasn't at the risk management subcommittee, but there doesn't appear to be any meeting there around. Were any of these risks picked up as a bit of a worry with the plan? Or, I mean, you know, what did they do? Did they just review the risk register and say, thank you, that's a true and accurate copy of the risk? So whose responsibility is it to then look at these risks with the priority and go, right, we're going to do this one, this one, this one? That's not, is that their responsibility or ours or whose?
If I may come in, I was at that meeting, although it's a new committee to me, not one that I'm terribly fond of, and I wouldn't fight for it. But we did go through the whole list and discussed it. And I think what would be useful to bring to the council or to this group would be, yes, an area of travel on that. and any comments, so a commentary from that meeting rather than minutes about ones that we wanted all members to know that this is serious or this is going down.
Because we're almost, as the parent committee, we're delegating, I'm going to use the wrong word, don't shout at me, we're delegating responsibility for that committee to look at this and to feel assured that somebody's looked at this. What you've just said assures me that those notes don't assure me, because that doesn't say we went through this and we talked about it and we're absolutely on it. So yeah, I'm
So taking my word for it, it's not good.
I can look at how that, the report of the meeting, happens.
it's just assurance, isn't it? It's assurance to the mothership.
Yeah, and there are, I mean, you're right, and part of the issue there is because it's buried in the comments section at the last column on the register.
It's in there.
But yeah.
Yeah.
The other column with direction of travel.
But we can.
It just looks like such a lot of work. I mean, it does look like a committee that's done a lot of work, but it's just evident.
Actually, I would like to say, actually, I can read this table, but I have got a new pair of glasses.
Share 'em round.
So one question I have is, I think comes up in two risks. So one of them is page 51, SR01, which is at the top. It's saying more work required in relation to GDPR and staff training in 2022. And then it's the same at top of 52, more work required in relation to GDPR and staff training in 2022. Did that happen?
Some, but we've got more to do.
Oh, right. So presumably that means it's going to go into 2023.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, I haven't finished. Top of page 53, item SR08, about polio to safeguard children and vulnerable adults. Online safeguarding training module to be undertaken. Has this been done? But now I understand that these comments were made at the last meeting. I presume it hasn't been done yet.
We do have the module and and identify the staff that take it, and the leisure staff have all done the module.
Well, they have done it. Ah, right. Oh, jolly good. Right.
Is that not mandatory training for you all?
Only for identified staff. So we bought it in as an add-on to some of the other modules. We've got things on manual handling, basically.
Yeah.
The safeguarding one is available for everyone, but we'd identified the staff that was key for, which isn't everybody. There's no reason why it couldn't be, because we have got the license to be able to use it in that way. We could roll it out to everyone.
All right. Okay. Thank you. I have got another one. So on top of page 57, so two items, PA01 and PA03, amenities manager to renew ROSPA certification, re-inspection of play equipment, and maintenance officer to receive ROSPA inspection training. Has that happened?
Not yet.
All right. Okay. Do you have a schedule for it?
We've been trying to find a course. They don't happen very often. What we did do, we're still compliant, but the amenities manager was essentially overqualified, if that's the right term. We went a step further so that he had a higher qualification. But we think that's important in the facilities we have.
Right. Yes. More trivial thing, litter and dog mess, PA06. Review of signage required in 2022. Was that done?
We're doing it.
Oh, right. Okay. Thank you. Oh, just one other thing. Page 61, item MB20. It's about the withdrawal of catering partner at the Oakwood Centre. It says a panel is in the controls in place. A panel established for regular meetings with contractor. Is that still the case?
No, that needs to come out. You're right.
All right. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
You enjoying yourself tonight?
Stimulating.
Something you've had all week.
Right, yeah. I've looked at so many of these sheets in the last few weeks. Not these particular ones, but yeah. Red, green and
You
yellow.
okay? Right, so that was to note. So now we go into item 11, the Youth Services Working Party. To note the report. I'm sadly to say that no recommendations, no submissions, and I'm not sure what the next steps are. So, but I'll hand over to Kevin
Yeah,
to introduce us and talk us through. I thought your chronology of events that you sent around was very comprehensive.
yeah, I think that was important for context, just to show how what went in to get where we are. It was quite a long road with some delays in it that we hit. What I think we did come out of it, the meetings that the working party had with potential providers, I'm sure, and might have something to add to that, I think were really useful and were probably one of the things that we hadn't really had as much of through the course of looking at the whole thing. And I think because they were informal, there was a level of candidness from those organisations as well about how they work and what sort of things we were looking at. Long and short of that is we were hoping to get 2 submissions from that, and they didn't materialise. That's kind of where it is. So obviously that project sits under this committee to decide how it wants to move that forward. One thing I would say is that there is a working party in place at the moment with members on it, and personally I think that was actually a good group and a good way of engaging with potential providers and looking at what we do. But it's for the committee to decide what it might want to do.
My concern, just before is again, going back to my earlier point, that in May we'll have a new council. And we've been without this service now for 2 years, is it?
2 years.
Something like 2 years. And I personally think it would be unwise to fetter the incoming council. And in essence, the working party, assuming the new council continues that principle, looks at what the next steps are. But Carol?
Yes, thank you. I don't agree with that. I don't think we should not do stuff because there's a new council. I think we're here to run a council, and next people are there to run the next council and take on what is on board and deal with it. There's been such a delay in this youth services, a lot of prevarication, nothing much happening. I know my group has certainly been pushing for meetings to happen, something to come out of it, and finally, over the last 6 months, probably it's sped up a little bit. If I remember rightly, we have some money from the Woodley Airfield Youth Centre that we got money from Woking Borough Council. So we have got funding. We've also got a budget which we were going to use for the SLA. So there's money there for that. So we seem to have budget to do something, but not a lot of idea about what to do. And I think it's about supply and demand. We need to know what the demand is so that we can supply what's needed. And that means we need to talk to people who already supply. In other words, whatever is happening elsewhere. And what I think would be a good idea to do would be to talk, for example, to Early Town Council, who have a youth care team, I think they call it. And they have a senior youth worker and some part-time workers as well. To see, I mean, that may not be the way forward, but let's find out from them how that's working, whether that could be something we could adopt. It's not going to happen in the next week. It's not going to happen until after May, I don't doubt. But we need to get this information to hand so that some discussion can take place with the Youth Services Working Party. So yes, that was let's keep this going. Let's not stop now. It's been stopped enough. And we should be finding out other ways of achieving what we want to achieve for Woodley's youth.
That's a good, I'll come to you in a minute. That's a good comment. What I was saying about these actual actions, not gathering information. We should continue to gathering information. I'm personally disappointed that, because it was something I was kicking around for a long, long time, but we've never done a survey. Yet the money was set aside to do a survey of the youth of Woodley, either via the schools, etc. And that's so I'm very disappointed that that hasn't happened. But yes, Carol, I didn't mean stop gathering information, because if you don't have information, you don't know that you're going to make the right decision. And just as a matter of information, the money from the airfield is capital money. We can't use that for revenue activities. No, but you did say we've got budget. The only budget we've got is the 20 something. I'll come to you in a minute.
Yeah, when we started looking at youth services, we commissioned a man who we used before to do some report, and I know I attended a few meetings with him. I don't remember having seen that report, so I've no idea what he said. Can't remember his name.
Chris Moore,
Yeah.
he's health consultant. Yeah, it was provided, because that was the youth strategy, which went through leisure, S&R, and then through full council.
Okay, would it be possible for me to have a copy of that report and see what it said? And putting my school governor's hat on, or my trustee's hat, I work both in Wangels and in South Lake and Highwood schools, and one of the things that the staff are saying now is that the mental health of children coming in, the abilities of young people coming in at the bottom of the system, so the 3-year-olds coming into nursery now, who, because of COVID, have no social skills, have much reduced language skills, and therefore the inability to begin learning as quickly as we would like them to. At the top end of the scales, the students that are on suicide watch in our schools here, and Juliet, you will know this, of course, the concerns that the staff have that because of their mental health, students are not able to learn and schools don't have the facilities to help them. And the one facility that we had with the street work that was done, we took away, and so they now have nothing. I understand that there aren't as many young people on the streets now as there were 3 years ago, so post-COVID has changed. Nobody knows where they are. It is presumed that they are gaming or TikToking or all those other things that young people do behind closed doors that can be very serious for them in the long run, especially types of grooming. And we saw the trial of that young girl that killed herself because of what was available on the internet. And that makes me care deeply about these young people. I know they're failing in schools because I see the results. I know teachers are struggling with them because they're not equipped to deal with it. And it is something that we could attempt to improve if only we could come up with the right solution. And I don't know what that is. I know that I'm very thankful that over the last, 20 years or so, Jack have served us very well. Before that, we had a street youth worker who the council employed. We made him redundant for some reason, I don't remember why, it was a long time ago. But now we've got children out there with nothing. And that makes me very sad and very concerned for them.
Right, thank you. Right, all these people that are on suicide watch should be a matter for professional health people, not Woodley Town Council. That's not something for us to be involved in. Preschoolers. I have a grandchild who has suffered because of COVID. He is not quite as advanced as he should be. However, I still don't see that as Woodley Town Council's responsibility. We may be able to help. There are professional services or voluntary services out there that could offer help to people like that, and we may be able to help fund some of that. It is something that we all feel about, and we all feel very strongly about it. My view has always been, and I think this is what Carol was talking about, is that we do have a space. We have money to make that space usable. At the moment, Kevin, is that space in where the changing rooms were, is that still a mess?
It's not the most glamorous area in the world, but it is used.
The last time I saw it, the ceiling was falling in. Has that been rectified?
Yeah, I believe so.
Right. Anyway, the point is, how is it used out of interest?
Cricket changing.
So they store their
Yeah,
stuff there. My proposal was at one point, and it is frankly, that could serve as a space that could be where we could use that capital fund to provide a space for young people at certain times of the evening. The SLA money could be used to provide a part-time youth worker, and I can go and introduce you to one now who is willing to do it. And the same space could be utilised for other purposes at other times. My proposal was that it could be a daytime cafe, stroke, could be there for elderly people to come and meet each other. That was a proposal that I made some time ago. It is well meant. And the research that I did said that the outreach work is fine, but you have to have a base where the children congregate. There has to be somewhere that the children congregate. And this was advice I got from the profession. And my approach has always been that we ought to look at that as a serious option. And I think it should be put down as one of the options we consider and take to this committee. I know the chap that did the report, frankly, I was involved in the whole thing right from the start. He just went like that. That was his decision made. As soon as I put that to him, it was too expensive, can't be done outside our budget. Frankly, I don't agree. I never have agreed. And I think that is something that the space will be reclaimed. If the youth don't want the space, it is at least reclaimed and used for other purposes. It's something that we can spend £84,000 on that we'll get value from in the long term. At the moment, it is 95% of the time, it is an empty space with cricket gear in it. That is how it's currently used. Okay, because you play cricket about 2 times a year out there in Woodley.
So just to summarise.
The world team's playing it, you know.
So we've got two lines of attack. One is the information, what Early Town Council are doing. The other one is this space, because there is a certain attractiveness in the sense of, the point you make, it's there, and if it doesn't work, it will still be there and it'll be utilised. So that's the second approach. And there's a third approach, which I'm going to raise, is that get the right church. Emmanuel in Southgate Crescent, there, Woking Borough Council youth work have gone into a partnership, which I assume includes money, with the church to provide almost exactly what you're talking about.
I think they call it the Pizza Cafe.
Whatever,
Something like that.
whatever. And it's been running now probably 18 months or something like that. No, well, if the Woking Borough is prepared to do that with the church, surely they should be prepared to work with us.
We do already have a church in Woodley that provides youth services and youth facilities.
But
The problem's been that they don't like anyone over 12 going in there, they only want the young kids.
what I'm saying is the third approach to my mind is we should latch into them and say, we want a partnership, which might be actually with your cupboard or whatever it is.
And you could triangulate that with the local integrated care board, because they are, if the rest of the time we could use that as a community cafe, then there is money for things like community cafes, because exactly what we said, the isolation in older people and the isolation of mental health problems in youth, you could probably try and get some money out of the ICB as well.
Was there a reason the survey wasn't carried out?
Sorry, was
The survey? The youth
it
survey?
just didn't happen, so.
How
Why?
did we
I don't
procure then?
It was
If-
relying on volunteers, and I think that's probably.
No, I don't want to go there
No,
because,
there was a
I think
reason
it'll be-
I recall, but
but
to me,
The money
yes,
was-
it's, I totally agree with what you're talking about at this moment in time, but really we need to find out what is.
there was money set aside for a professional to go into schools, subject to getting the permission, obviously, to carry it out. The volunteers that Carol's talking about, one volunteer who actually did do the work and then didn't pass it on. But I don't want to go down that route. It's a rat hole.
So can I ask a question about, so we said that we've gone to tender, which implies we've gone with a spec.
Yeah.
What did we write in that spec? We must have written something. Do you think we pitched it right? Because if people didn't come back, and how did we know what we were tendering for if we had no idea what we want?
Yeah.
What was the tender? I don't understand
so-
what we tendered for.
Okay, well, I can't recite the whole
No,
thing.
no,
to
no,
you,
no, no, but was
um,
it really vague? Tell us what you think you can offer us.
No,
It was, sorry, and
Well, you know, it would have said something like, oh, I can't remember the exact details, but something like, you know, 1 or 2 outreach sessions, at least one
Right.
evening a week or something. Could be other events.
So it's about people rather than.
it was, and the key thing that that the working party wanted to build in was a flexibility about what
Yes.
that looked like. So it wasn't necessarily just specifically that many hours of outreach work, but actually it could have some other things, and it might flex as it goes forward. And actually, we were looking for some proposals about how
Ideas.
that might work.
Actually, we got good feedback from the, because we did see 3 teams. altogether,
Yeah.
didn't we? We got good feedback from them, and I think we were adjusting the spec to suit what they were telling us, but it probably wasn't quite enough, was it?
Well, it's difficult to say. I think the feedback that we got, which was fairly limited, but was largely that the organisations we were expecting to submit something didn't feel they could commit to something at this time that wasn't what they've already did. So they've already got their own activities going on.
So it wasn't necessarily what we asked of them, it was that they weren't in a place to offer it.
Yeah,
Oh, that's a bit different. from what I-
but within that, I mean, you kind of take from that what you want, but I think it's quite difficult. There's a requirement in there for it to be measurable and specific. You know, you're handing over money, and it absolutely needs to fulfil those things. You know, the other organisations who work in certain ways have got other activities going on, and that may not be particularly attractive.
It might be worth something like this cafe or whatever you want to call it, and building on what they say about early. If we can do a little hybrid of the two, we could probably tender for something a little bit more specific, which might be a little bit more tangible for them, because often companies won't tender for something that they can't really get a grasp on. And if we're very clear, we're going to
I
open
took the
this.
trouble to read the tender this afternoon. I think the tender was quite explicit.
Oh, okay.
It was precisely what Jack has done for the last 20 years. That's what the tender asked for. The difference between what Jack has done for the last 20 years and what was contained in the tender was that the tender was asking people to show how they were producing and providing a service and what benefits that service was
Evidence
bringing to
benefit.
the people in Woodley. you know, I mean, it's quite simple. I've always said that we were pitching this so that it fitted Jack's requirement. It fitted Jack what Jack does, and I've always felt that. I don't hide it in any way. Why Jack didn't agree to tender, I don't know. Nobody's told me why they didn't agree to tender. All I know is they were very interested in tendering. That's correct, isn't it?
No,
But they expressed
no,
the written.
no,
They
no,
wrote
no.
something to
No,
us.
listen, I would say that what's happened is that the need has changed so much that we did try to make our tender more flexible to suit what could be a future need, but it didn't feel as if it was enough to judge from the feedback we were getting, because I think they were fairly consistent about it really, that, previous model doesn't work now. It did work in the
That's
past, but it doesn't work now.
From my
Because of the way young people are behaving.
From what I
has
read,
changed.
it looked very much as though we were asking someone to do 3 evenings average work a week.
No, it wasn't 3. And as I say, it was intended to be more flexible.
It was 3.
Can I draw this part of the conversation?
Yeah, you
Because
could.
because what we're trying to do here is not what's gone on in the past.
No, I
All
agree.
right, we've got, I think, 3 sensible ideas, which I think is good because potentially we let the working party, in essence, just go off and without any guidance, which I think was the right thing at that time. I think now we've got some guidance to say, look at these specific things. Carol?
Yes, just to move it on really. I think youth services working party should move fairly quickly, even if they haven't got all the information to find out what information they need. They should invite more people to join the working party to get that information, to talk to people, to have experts, if you like, to come along. We definitely need information and we need to talk to other people. That's external organisations. Early Town Council was just a suggestion. I think Saturn Town Council has got quite an active youth movement, if that's the word for it. But I think we're talking and talking, and we need to be doing and doing. And that Youth Services Working Party needs to meet as quickly as possible, or at least have a set date, and to consider, who else might be invited to the next meeting to provide some information that can be worked out.
Can I just say on that subject that one of the groups that came to us, they said they wouldn't tender, but they did say that they got something quite active going in Tarvers, wasn't it? And it wasn't really a question of us asking, because I don't know whether it would be benefit in asking them to come back a second time. But I think they were inviting us to go and have a look at what they do.
That would have been Berkshire Youth. They told me they were.
Right, yeah. I mean, I think we have had some feedback from these youth organisations. I don't know whether it's worth inviting them back again, but it might be worth it.
They did say that sort of regardless of the outcome, because of, it's what they believe in, it's what they do that actually go to them at any time and talk to them about,
yeah.
They'd help us.
I'd like to move on. I think we've got some good next steps there. Okay, so now we're on the Woodley Town Centre Partnership to receive the report. Brian, do you want to give us your report?
Well,
It's only the minutes,
yeah, I mean, basically,
page 73. Have you got it?
I'm not, no.
70.
Sorry, Brian. No.
It's the minutes of the 19th of October. Just completely copied.
Yeah,
We've all read it.
they're all ready. I guess the thing I wanted to pick out, the reason I wanted to come here tonight was I did present to the meeting on the 19th of October. My main concerns were the future viability of the partnership, and particularly going into next year. I spoke to Mary, the chairman, about it, and we're very keen for this committee to be absolutely clear as to where we are really, and our concerns really about the future. I guess the context of it is probably similar to everyone else's context. COVID was very hard on our finances and really made it difficult in 2021. 21-22, we stabilised things and kept the head above water. To be honest, we actually finished up with a bit more money in the bank at the end of that year than we did at the beginning. So we were reasonably optimistic coming into the current year, and set a budget accordingly. And things have turned out as they have turned out, with the cost of living crisis putting a real squeeze on footfall in all town centres, but also then inflation driving costs up. So we're having the normal squeeze of expenditure going up, income going down. That's kind of where we're at in brief. We're fine for this year. We'll get through this year. We've got our events for Christmas all planned in as normal. We have had to cancel some events this year, though, and that's been disappointing. And even if we'd not done them, we would have been in a worse situation. We started off the year with nearly £16,000 in the bank. That was all we had. We had 14 at the beginning of the year, so we actually had a bit more. We're likely to finish up with only about £6,000 left. So that kind of gives us a real difficulty in setting any form of budget for next year. I guess the reasons for it, mainly market income. So the Saturday market, the Wednesday market, have been particularly badly hit by footfall. The footfall situation, by the way, is not unique to Woodley. We are fairly typical. The kind of anecdotal evidence we get from shopkeepers is it's around 25% lower now than it was pre-COVID, 28%. That kind of reflects what I hear nationally as well. Around 30% is the sort of norm. And obviously that means that market traders are not keen to turn up with it. So as much, it's not as profitable for them. So it's more difficult to attract them. So that's been the real pressure on income falling. Expenditure going up as well. Everything's gone up a lot this year. And although the report I presented was sort of the half-year stage, it didn't look too bad, because at the half-year stage, it never is. Q3 is when all the action happens, or certainly November, December, January is when our big expenditures happen. We pay for Christmas, basically, and the Christmas events then. So going into the new year, we will get to the end of the year with some money in the bank, but not a lot. So I guess I just wanted to sort of flag it up and make sure everyone is aware. I've got some ideas as to where we can move forward, but and would dearly love to, because I do think there's an awful lot we can offer, more than we have done even for the past couple of years, when we've had to cancel events like the dance festival that we planned for the summer, the Halloween event that we planned for October. But there's lots of other things we'd love to do that would be really beneficial, I think, for the community. But it's very difficult to see how we can put on the sort of programme events that we want with the kind of financial constraints we find ourselves under. Now, I would say Woodley Town Council have been great. Have been historically good supporters of the initiative, and I think I'm probably right in saying that a lot of initiatives haven't had that sort of support. So it's been great where we're at. I guess that my plea is, as we all know, but things are getting more expensive. And I guess just by way of demonstrating that, the sort of events that take a lot of money are things like the Christmas lights, the summer planting, the Christmas extravaganza. We pay for a number of licenses. Those alone cost £25,000 this year, likely to be considerably more next year. We do get a grant from the council of £15,000, and we get a similar grant from Wokingham Borough Council. For that 30, straight away 25 is gobbled up by just some of our events, really, some of our big events. So yeah, things are going up in price, basically, and I guess I just wanted people to be absolutely aware of the challenges that we have. And that was kind of the report I gave to the TCP management committee back in October. Don't have any answers, really. Lots of things I've thought about. Lots of towns think of, well, could we have a bid? Could we get the shopkeepers to pay a levy on their business rates and finance it that way. Loads of towns have done that. Whether it will work in the current climate or not, I don't know. But I think we do need to probably think, what can we do with the financial restrictions we've got, or is there a way of increasing? And that's really what I wanted to make you all aware of. Happy to answer any questions. Yeah.
Questions for Brian? Martin?
Sorry, I really don't know, Brian, how Woodley Town Centre management operates. I don't know much about it. You're obviously, you get income from things like the extravaganza, people paying for stands and stalls and things like that.
Yes.
Where else do you get income from, and where is your expenditure? I mean, you just said this licensing, it means nothing to me.
Okay, so the income is split pretty much three ways. The budget last year was to bring in income of £74,000. The Wokingham pay 15, Woodley pay 15, so that's 30 of it. The rest comes, the biggest lump of it comes from the Saturday market, which was budgeted to bring in 25,000. Car boots 5,000. The extravaganza 4,000. Woodley Traders, a sponsorship 2,000. So various pots of money around, but the biggest amounts are the grants we get from the two councils, plus the market income. And it's the market income that is being squeezed most, it's making it worse.
So your only place to get some money, right?
Sorry.
The only place you can get any money is from Wokingham Borough and from Woodley Town Council.
The reason that the market, the income from the market has dropped, is likely to drop from 20,000 to 25,000 to 20. So a big drop of £5,000 just there.
But you're not going to increase that, are you?
I think realistically you're right. We would hope. I mean, I think we started this year more optimistic, and all the sort of trade talk and all this sort of information I got from places like the Association of Town Centre Management was that post-COVID there'd be a bounce back, and particularly markets, because they were outside and because they were in small town, they were likely to be more attractive than they were pre-COVID. It just hasn't transpired. So what we're finding is a lot of the traders have either gone out of business or just can't be bothered doing it anymore. It's just not worth their while, because the footfall in towns it's just not generating enough business for them.
And is your fee that you charge the people for coming comparable with other places, or have we got any wiggle room to put it up?
It is, yes, it's comparable. I mean, we could put it up. I mean, everything else is going up, but I think the expectation is probably if we went with an increase next year, people would understand. They wouldn't like it, of course, but they would understand with inflation, 10-11% or whatever, that an increase would be justified. We haven't put up fees for a long time. Our grants from both the councils haven't gone up for a long time. Nothing has gone up in the past few years. We all know there's not been very much inflation. So we've kind of got used to a world where things don't go up. I think going forward now, we're back to inflationary times. And I think the expectation should be that we will put things up by an appropriate amount. Inflation would be the kind of key driver. But of course, there is a risk with that. These traders are struggling already. And we want to make sure they can keep a viable business running. So it's a bit of it's a challenge.
Do you know what your shortfall will be from the 44k earnings other than Woodley and Wokingham?
Sorry, overall what our shortfall will be?
Yeah.
We're likely to finish up with about 10,000 less in our cash than we started.
So you're looking for 10 grand?
Well,
And your wage comes out of that, does it?
my salary comes out of all that, yeah. Plus the other expense that has come out, we pay for a desk in the office here, for about nearly £5,000 a year for that. We do pay for a number of other things like a street trading license. We never used to pay for. 2 years ago, they introduced a fee of £1,400. So we have these various fees that don't sound very much on their own, but added together, if we looked at performing rights license, street trading license, and something called a premises license, that's £2,000. Now, to an organisation like ours, that's a significant amount of money, actually. We could put on a decent event, that would be the cost of putting on the Halloween event, easy. So those kind of things are a bit irritating in the sense that you think, why are we paying these things? It seems to me like we're moving wooden dolls around.
And presumably you've considered sponsorship, have you?
Yeah, we've put in for sponsorship this year £2,000. We've raised 1,800 so far. So KJ Smith in particular have been a very good sponsor for the last 2 years. Woodley Pets have also been a very good. AB Walker also been good sponsors. So, but despite lots of talking to them, persuading, it is difficult to get money out. I think we know why. Everyone is finding it very, very hard, and to come along and say, "Can you give us some money for sponsorship?" is a difficult ask. But we keep going at that one. I think we'll certainly get our £2,000 this year.
There's also a market manager salary that's paid out of it as well.
Yeah, the market manager salary is around. We get paid £100 a month, so it's like £5,000-6,000. You get a small bonus as well.
Is there any opportunity? You mentioned premises and performing, etc. Of piggybacking on those licenses from the town council, if they've got those licenses.
We don't, because they're specific to the space.
But so what I mean is, take the performing rights.
Yeah, we pay half of it. I think you pay half. We pay half. Do you come in?
There's a split.
Yeah, so we pay.
So we're already doing. You see where I'm going?
Yeah. We pay 620. I think it was about £1,500 in total. Was it?
Yeah,
Something like that.
yeah, I think it was 60-40 split or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
What's the ask? What do you want?
Yeah, well, I mean, a difficult one, if I'm honest. I mean, of course, yeah, so some money would be great, but I am mindful of everyone is doing that. So I guess to be honest, I would much rather do it. If you're saying to me, look, you give me an encouragement to put a plan together to say how much, I'm quite happy to do that. But I wouldn't want to just pluck a figure out of the air. But I can certainly put together a budget of the kind of things I would like to do. And say, and this is how much they're going to cost, and I can do that fairly quickly, if I'm honest.
I mean, it's nothing to do with me because I'm not on this committee, but I'd like to see you go through it line by line and say, we're going to stop doing this, we're going to do that in a different way, we're going to try and bump that up, we're going to put some real focus on X, and we're not going to do this anymore, or we're going to change that, and just so that there is assurance that you've absolutely thought of everything. And once you're done, there's no more wriggle room, then I think it's legitimate to say, and the shortfall is still 15k. You're going to have to give us 15k if you want us to carry on.
Yeah, I'm quite happy to do that.
Because I'm sure you have done all of that.
Yeah, I've got that. Kevin asked me tonight just to give you a general overview, but I'm quite happy to give you the details. So yeah, thank you for hearing me out. But as I say,
there's a £250 grant you can apply for.
and to be fair, did increase their 13,000 to 15,000 last year.
Yeah.
Although we did have the Platinum Jubilee that cost us 3, so
expensive.
yeah, which was very expensive.
Yes, but it continues.
And it continues, yeah, but so does the royal events, I'm afraid. I think we're going to have a coronation next year.
One thing that we could consider. Any royal event, we could turn around and say, actually, that's the sole responsibility of the town council. I think that would not be unreasonable. Because I know you and I talked about the fact that we've got the coronation coming up. Hopefully I'm going to be over the country.
I didn't realise you're such a Republican, Chairman.
Extremist.
It's the only way to be. But with that, I think it could be very, you organise it, obviously with Kevin and as well, but financially, it will be the responsibility of the town council.
Can I just make one other observation? You may or may not want to come to us for one short term, get us over the hump sum of money, rather than a continual. So I'm just saying, consider that.
Yeah, thanks for that. I did actually put a couple of options in, and that was one that I did think of. We don't know how long the current economic situation is going to last, but we're all kind of thinking it's a few years, aren't we, really? It feels like 2 or 3 years at least, you know.
I think the world is coming back. I mean, I just spent a week in Centre Park with grandkids. The place was sold out, you know.
And that's expensive, isn't it?
It's not cheap, no. It, you know, it does cost a lot of money, and it, you know, people are going out and spending money, especially as old brothers. A lot of you.
But I think behaviours have changed. I mean, certainly I do much more online shopping than I ever did before, and that hasn't changed because actually I've got used to having the time back. Christmas, I think, is different. I get that. I think it'll be busier at Christmas, but I think a lot of people's behaviours have changed, and we need to mitigate against that, don't we? And find other ways of raising income. I'm inclined to agree with you. You know, do we need a big slug now, a bit of a lump sum, and then we put something else in place later?
There is another option. I don't know whether this is acceptable or not, but Alan Judson's name appears on here. The likes of the Lions and other organisations like the Lions have large sums of money that they give to people on a regular basis. Now, I don't know whether it's appropriate for you to go to a charity or not, but you know.
I think depending on the event it is, some of the kids.
To be fair to the Lions, they are paying for the Bulls ride at Saturday's Carol concert, so they do.
All right.
And they've partly bought the lights on the tree, but they are coming to the end of their useful life. So I have spoken to Alan about, okay, are you wanting to continue with your tree of lights because you're going to have to pay for some new lights?
Yeah,
So
but it's there.
Sorry,
It's not there.
what?
It's normally there by now.
What?
Tree of life.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've spoken to Alan. The lights are on it. I think he'll be setting up the next day. So the event is on Saturday, so he's got to get a move on. But I think he is planning to do it either tomorrow or Thursday.
Did you say that you had ideas for other events or say something like that?
Yeah, we've talked about lots of things that we could do. Certainly, as I said last year, we really wanted to put on an international dance festival. We were pretty well advanced with the planning of it. We had lots of dance groups from different countries, and it felt like a really good event that we were going to put on in the summer, like July time. And we had to pull it because we were afford it. The Halloween event would be good, but I am thinking of things like there's a great opportunity for entertainment, particularly on a Saturday. We could have almost a rolling festival of music in the town centre on a Saturday, where we had 3 stages. We have the centre stage, which is the main stage, as it were, and we had 2 smaller stages where we could encourage youngsters, schools, amateurs, and then moving into more sort of semi-professional sort of bands.
It's not going to income generate for you, though, is it?
No, but it brings in footfall, and I think that's the important thing. That it would generate income in the sense that if we can convince market traders that there is increased footfall, there's activity going on in the town centre on a Saturday, it's more likely to attract traders than if it's just nothing going on. So I think if they see a town making an effort, that they're more likely to come. And they quite often have a choice of, well, I can go to one town on Saturday, or I can go to the other town. Which do I do? I'd like to, and I'll go to the one that feels like it's most attractive. So yeah, I think there can be some benefit, but really.
But things like the dance festival, and we don't really need to get into detail, but you have got, allied dance who will do it for you in a heartbeat if you publicise them. Give them the space, they'll sort it out, cost you nothing. And you've got that one up at the end of the precinct.
They were very much involved in.
You play those 2 off against each other, you've got yourself a dance festival.
Yeah, I mean, they were very much involved in it, and we had lots of other.
So I don't understand what the cost of something like that is, because apart from a venue, there is no cost, is there?
Well, there's usually things like music and.
Well, you've got a licence fee.
We have.
So,
We were having things like, speakers and music being played. No, it's not a lot.
I think perhaps for me, some of the call to arms now, everybody knows the cost of living is getting worse. I think you've got a great community in Woodley. It now might be the time to bit of a call to arms out. You know, if we want to do something, we need somebody, you know, in the carnival committee, somebody's just rocked up and goes, I run a disco. You can have our PA system for the quiz on Friday, whenever it is. So I think if you use your social media a bit more, you might get a bit more free help on one-offs.
If you look at, if you went back last Sunday to the, what I call the People's Remembrance
Yeah.
Service,
Completely
that was
done.
one individual who had a bee in their bonnet, thank God. And it was an amazing event. It was really, really good, well supported. There are, and that's just, and then you've got people like Ronnie, you know, there are dozens and dozens of people there. The issue is identifying them,
Mobilising them.
and just putting them a, you know, a little gem of an idea, and then they go off and run with it, and they do it brilliantly.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was at a meeting last Friday afternoon with the Arts and Culture Alliance and Wokingham. And again, we talked about a lot of these things, and yet they are available. One of the things we were discussing is how none of us knew the range of stuff that was out there. So, you know, we wanted some form of directory so we can actually tap into that, because there is plenty of that sort of stuff out there. I'm sure. You know, when I mentioned about the busking festival, straight away I was given a name. I thought, well, no name, you know? Now I do, you know. So yeah,
It's that networking bit.
yeah,
Isn't it?
yeah.
We could always have a bike racing competition.
Scooter racing. Yeah.
Right, I think we should move on. This time's getting on. Thanks, everybody. So you got some actions.
Yes, that's good. Yes, thank you. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, just give us a shout. I'm really creative. Let me try and help.
We're talking about the clean up of the content.
Right.
Okay, project schedule. We're only halfway down page 2, I mean. Page 76.
Yeah, thank you.
You can
So
see brief.
I will just item to note, you'll see there's some good news on there. There's a lot of completed projects which won't show on the next sheet list. They're on there for now just to show that we have been doing something. Those are all projects that were agreed through this committee for capital programmes for the building facilities fund that we've got on, and the team's got on and sorted those out.
We end up with just a couple, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, so it'll be a much reduced, although I have asked for a couple of other ones which I can put on
So you
there.
don't have the third black one.
Oh, no, really? Gee, that's wonderful. This thing.
Right, any questions? Right,
I thought the paddy bowl was completely renovated last year.
No.
No?
so
When was it last done?
I mean, it had a new liner a few years
Maybe that's
back,
what you're thinking of.
but that was a few years back.
So the pump's an old pump and
Yes.
it's right, okay.
right, there's no other.
Oh, I was going to ask a question about that actually. It was just that I see that the pump is due to be delivered in the spring next year. Oh, installation, yeah. I was just wondering, when will the pump be delivered, or sort of thing? Because it can be, you know, there can be delays in receiving things, and by Easter it could be very warm or whatever.
Yeah, I'd have to check what arrangements are in place. I know that the amenities manager has been talking to the contractor about doing, so I think they would actually do the installation. I don't know. Yeah, we need to schedule it, so we've got plenty of time.
Yeah,
But regardless of how warm spring is, it opens on a particular date.
Oh,
doesn't
yes,
it?
yes.
Oh, it's the 1st of June or something.
Earlier than that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we do know when that deadline is.
Okay, everybody's okay on that, let's move on. Community grant, page 79. Question to Kevin. If we agreed all of these, does that go within budget?
Plenty.
Usually does.
Plenty.
Plenty,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, no, it would leave us with, we still have £1,150.
So on that basis, are there any ones here that anybody objects to? Otherwise, I'd like to move on and vote them all. Carol?
Yeah, I'm happy with all of them except page 80, the Woking Job Support Centre, where only 5% of their members are from Woodley. which is not surprising because it costs a lot of money to get to Woking, and because of the transport links, people are far more likely to go to Reading, I think, for that sort of support. So whilst I can appreciate that, you know, it's a good thing to offer, I do wonder whether we're getting our money's worth in view of the number of Woodley people that use it. And maybe we just need more information or asking. I mean, I think the reason they don't have the Woodley members is because of the travel, but maybe they know a different reason why. So that was one that I wasn't happy
I
with.
can just to give you a bit of more information on that, they provide us what the total cost of their activities are. The total cost of their activities are £27,000 for those 200 people. That's what they provide in their application. Whether that helps kind of then understand as a percentage what they're asking for.
That's a lot of money for 200 people, wasn't it?
I did go there for a meeting once, and I was really impressed actually, because what they can do is help someone who's maybe not too IT literate to put a CV together and things. So I thought it was really good. I mean, I take your point about the transport. I can't remember whether they come out to Woodley at all. Perhaps they don't. You see what I mean? If they came to Woodley, it would overcome that problem, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But I can't remember that.
10 minutes, what did it says on
Well, and what they want to do is equip an office apart from anything else and other things, but so it would
Yeah.
imply it's not an office in Woodley.
Well, they do have an office in Woking, that's true.
Yeah, yeah.
But I can't remember whether they said they have.
So what's the general feeling? No on that one? I'm ambivalent to it.
Well, 250 quid is a drop in the ocean. If we can put 250 quid somewhere else that's going to do more good.
Rather give it to Brian.
Okay, so we're saying no.
Everybody's happy with that, yeah.
A few minutes past.
Also, the job centre provides the same kind of thing.
You mean the government one?
Well, job centre, yeah, job centre plus, they offer the same kind of thing for free, I think.
Most of them do.
Do they?
Yeah.
I think it's a difference though, don't you have to be signing on? Use the job.
I don't know, but I know that they do offer that sort of service. But I mean, the fact that you are seeking employment, so therefore you need office space to do your CV and skills for, I don't know, interview skills, etc. Then by nature of the fact that you're doing that, you must be looking for a job, not necessarily if you're signing on, I understand.
But it's become, I mean, for a lot of these, it's become habitual, isn't it?
Yes. We did it last time, therefore.
Yeah.
The other one question mark I had was 3 Cs yet to open, but it's only £150. So that's the Emmanuel Church Cafe for lonely people.
Maybe they'd like 350 then.
250 is the max, I'm afraid.
Okay. Well, then perhaps they've got something very specific in mind. Then, if they've only asked for 150, they must know it's 250.
Well, it's refreshments and cake and what have you. So.
Can I just make this observation? Woodley Adopt a Street project was. That's an acronym for something else.
Is it?
White Anglo-Saxon Protestants.
Read it.
Oops, Woodley.
Shoot like that. Yeah, so yes, you can tell she like that. So if apart from that one then, the Working Job Support Centre, are we okay for all the others?
Yeah. Yeah.
For those in favour, please show. Thank you.
I do think we ought to be. Do we write these people a letter saying you've been awarded, but this is, you know, specific to this year? Because I just get, you know, if we didn't give money to say Woodley United FC next year, I get the sense that they've been getting this since 2011 and they sort of depend on it, and that makes me a bit uncomfortable. You know, it is a year grant, isn't it? This is not, we're going to give you 250 quid every year.
I would say
Yeah.
United, their reasons for asking for the grant each year do change. So their specifics this year is because the numbers of girls has increased. Whether or not they use that money as part of.
No, well, that's fine. It's just
more specifically kind of they link
in the letter. It would just be really nice to say, you know, this is one-off grant of 250 quid.
But when they give them the grant, the mayor asks them to come forward and talk about.
Maybe she can have a little donor.
Okay. Allotments rent review, item 18. Right.
Yeah, thank you. So the first bit there, it's the same report that comes each year. There's a bit of background there. Some years ago, we did set some standard rates, which made any changes much easier in terms of everything being placed as a discount or addition based on the rate for a resident. So that's that bit in the boxes there. The long and short of it, in terms of what it looks like, if you look at page 84, historically the rent has gone up by an amount equal to the RPI of the September preceding this meeting each year. We've been lucky enough in the last few years, that's been really low. It's higher this year at 12.6%. That said, the rent rates that we charge remain very competitive. There is a table at the top of page 85, which just shows some context with other areas, other council run allotment sites, which would be facilities. So it's still very competitive and a good rate. And perhaps the key thing to look at is, although the 12.6% is a much higher percentage rate than we've had previously, what that means. So for a resident with a 10-pole plot, for example, that's a £6.30 over the year increase. Just for some context as to what that actual change would be, or £3.15 for a 5-pole plot. The other ratios remain the same in terms of all the other rates and their how they work. So they work from that basic rate.
Quick, 2 questions. Water charges, have they not increased?
No, we'd kept that the same.
No, I mean.
Oh, sorry, our
Thames
charges.
charges.
Yeah, what we have seen, where we'd added more troughs in opening up new plots. Overall, the charges we're using more water at the site, but that's offset by the.
What I mean,
rents.
no, what I'm saying is the unit price of the water is going up. And
Yes,
so therefore because it's been £4 for,
it has, yeah.
from the moment it was introduced many years ago.
It was.
Surely we should also be increasing the water rates to reflect the Thames Water increase.
In reality, that was built in. It used to just be the one charge. We never separated it out. So we could do that in the context of what the total rent looked like. But the £4 doesn't actually represent a quantity of water. It was a charge that was able to give us the potential to.
But that, I
lower
think, should be
rates.
inflated by maybe the RPI as well, because Thames Water is charging us more.
But they're actually charging us 33% more. The actual difference between what we used to pay for water rates and what we now pay for water rates is 33% greater.
Some of that's due to how much gets used. So it's not necessarily the rate of per unit for water. It's seasonal as well. Depends how hot it is and how much water is used on the site.
But if you use a percentage, so for instance, if the Thames Water unit rate goes up for argument's sake 5%, we should apply that to the water rates. Because I think the £4 was arbitrary at the beginning, but how many years? That's about 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think that benefit. So that's one thing. And then the second thing I was going to mention, we've got quite a strong waiting list, haven't we?
Yes.
And so therefore we shouldn't worry about an RPI increase, because if someone drops out, we know there are people there. Oh, it's just like a Tory to say anything like that. It's costing our taxpayers £5,000 to subsidise it. Yeah. So we're making a minor change here. Right.
Why is it RPI and not CPI? Because what's the mortgage rate got to do with the allotment?
It's not the mortgage rate, that's the retail price, isn't it? The CPI is a shopping bag.
Consumer price index and RPI is retail price index.
Yes.
I thought RPI included the mortgage rate. That's why it's a bit different. CPI.
RPI is lower. isn't it?
So,
Yeah.
Oh, CPI is lower.
RPI is the general measure for pensions. And
That's why that's why it was changed from CPI to RPI, because it was lower. Anyway, just before we move on, I need, no, hang on a sec,
Yeah.
because of time.
Okay.
All right. So as the business of the meeting has not been completed by 10 PM, in accordance with Standing Order 11.5 IA, I propose that the meeting continue until no later than 10:30 PM. Can I have a seconder? Right. All those in favour, please raise their hands. All those against? Any abstentions? Right, carry on.
Well, yes, I did think that RPI includes the mortgage rate and is higher, tends to be higher than CPI, and I just wondered why it's being charged like that. And also, I mean, the lease for the site is constant, as luck would have it. So it's not as if, I don't think our costs for running the allotments are going up at quite this rate.
The lease is for a certain amount of time. At the end of that time, Reading Borough Council increase it.
But they haven't increased it.
But they have. The lease, it's fixed for something like 3 or 4 years, isn't it?
It's longer than.
Yeah.
It's,
So it's
10
fixed.
years from 2018.
Okay, can I tell you then, in September this year, RPI was higher than CPI. RPI was 14.2%, CPI was 11.1%. So RPI is higher and it includes mortgage interest payments. I do think that's a bit surprising that we're using that rate.
RPI is always higher because it's.
You just said it was lower. One of you just said it was lower.
RPI is always higher because it includes everything. It's living, whereas CPI is a shopping basket of things that people buy.
Yeah,
So,
RPI includes mortgage
Can I draw
interest.
this particular part of the conversation?
Yeah.
Because we need to move on, you know, the debate, these guys will sort it out, and if one way or another, what's on the table at the moment is RPI, and whether it's higher or lower than CPI, that's not in what we need to make a decision on. So it's an RPI figure that's in here. That's what we need to reflect. Martin.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. There are a couple of things here that struck me. First of all, why are we calling things poles and perches and rods? It's rather outdated language. I mean, I had to go to Google to find out what you were talking about. You know, that's fine, but
What I'll say is that is the standard
language of allotments.
terms that you use in allotments across.
is it really?
Yeah.
Okay. I've never done an allotment, so I wouldn't know.
I always thought a pole was something like you fish with, and a perch is what you catch.
I think the derivation of it comes from a fishing pole.
Probably.
Yeah, to the length of the pole for fishing. But anyway, 17% staff increase. Your two tables, all I've done is I've looked at the percentage increase between the two. And then you've got a 33% water rates. Now, my question was, and Councillor Chadwick made the same point, you're asking for more than the actual cost. And I'm a great believer in that the council provide facilities for the people of the community. And the people of this community have paid for these things already because they pay their rates. You know, most of the people that use our allotments are Woodley locals. And that's the other question I had, if I may. What is the percentage of non-residents?
Don't have that to hand. I can
You
certainly
don't know.
we do have that information.
Because I don't mind screwing the non-residents for a bit more money. It's the people of Woodley I'm here to serve and represent.
So I say that that's why those rates were set, and they used to be variable, but so that is why the non-resident rate was set.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just I personally don't feel happy about the amount we're asking for. It's not like we're buying, the only thing here that we are getting for is the water. I know that there's staff costs, and I couldn't quite understand the allocation. You've got some arbitrary allocation of a number or percentage of your total staff bill that you allocate to the allotments. Is there any logic to that?
It is a percentage, and it's
So kind of arbitrary.
it's subjective.
So you could be covering your costs if you could accurately reflect the staff costs associated with the allotments.
It'd be very hard to measure the staff costs associated with it, except that as the number of plots has gone up, the work involved also.
Just to balance your comment, if you change that percentage to reduce the numbers here to balance the cost, you'd have to increase somewhere else. Because at the end of the day, 100% of the staff cost has to be covered across all the activities.
It's all, you know, it's putting stuff in one pot so that people will add up to the same number. I've been there, done that. And I'm just concerned that we're arbitrarily raising the cost to the members of the allotments in an arbitrary way. That's my feeling. It's okay, we should raise it 12.5%, bang, bang, bang. And we're looking at this net cost to the council of £5.5 grand or 5,200, which is slightly made up.
It's hard to be exact, you're right, absolutely, because there are some figures like the staffing cost, which is a percentage taken from across the board. The water rates can be up or down on any given year, depending on how hot it was and things like that. And also the repairs, if we have a particularly difficult year and more work needs doing, it's more expensive, some years it's cheaper. So yeah, it's variable.
And remember, this is for January 2024.
Is it? Oh,
Yes.
I never read that.
The law, I think it's legal, isn't it? You have to give 12 months notice.
Yeah, because the rental amount is stated in the tenancy agreement, and the allotment act states there needs to be 12 months notice of any change to the agreement.
So can I move to the recommendations, please? So can I take them both together? The recommendation that we note the content of the report and members can an increase rate of 12.6% in line with the retail price index and to take effect from January 24. And a third thing is to look into the impact of water rates. Now that would be for January 2025. All those in favour, please show. All for, all those against? All those abstaining? So that's carried.
Yeah.
Council meeting dates, page 86. Can I take that as read, please? Thank you. I probably have to go for the vote to recommend those to the council. All those in favour, please show.
Sorry, what were we voting for?
The
Meeting day.
meeting dates.
Okay.
All those again? Oh, that's fine. That's unanimous. Malone Park pathway finding. You want to briefly?
Yeah, just very quickly, I'm asking for some money there, if possible, for two topics which have been discussed some time ago from Malone Park. One of those is to improve access to the play area. At the moment, we've got to trek across grass from either Jerome Road or Malone Road just to get to the play area, which isn't helpful for anyone, particularly with any sort of mobility issue, with a buggy or anything, or if it's wet, it's just not helpful. So what we were looking at is purchase of material to do pathways similar to what we have with the Garden of Remembrance. It's a bound gravel, which provides a good good drainage and a good surface for people to access it. The second item there is for knee rail fencing as an option which would be attractive but also functional in terms of providing a barrier for any unauthorised vehicle access to the site. So we looked at some other options, bollards and things like that. But actually, what we're talking about is the sort of fencing that we've got in the park, in the park, which is quite attractive, but actually does the job and would stop that happening in the future. And The proposal there is for that money to come from the balance that's in the capital programme, which at the moment is 8,246, and the cost of those two projects is £6,000.
And there's the project assessment on 87 and 90. Do we need to discuss it? We can go straight to the vote. All those in favour, please. All those against? Abstention? Martin, do you want to just give?
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I'm in favour.
Okay, great, thank you. Community infrastructure levy to note. Item A on page 93, that's to note. If somebody's got any issues with that, I move on to item B. Consider the Silco funding request for us to start hoping to pay for California's Lakeside. I was given the mandate from the planning committee to go to a meeting of all, it was a virtual meeting, of all parish councils. And my mandate that I was given was basically saying no. When we get other parish councils helping to fund our events, then we might reconsider that. I wasn't the only parish council or town council that said that as well. So unless anybody disagrees, my proposal would be, the response is no. That's what the planning committee said to me. Can I have a seconder on that? You got one. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Item 19, code of conduct. Ask us to review it. In the interest of time, I think we can do that. I'm not sure how we can on this. This is page 127. Raised because I think somebody was concerned that it didn't cover everything, wasn't it? If you remember,
It was in response to the several the large organisations in the country that were putting the respect and civility pledge.
oh
forward,
yes,
that it was asking to do that, and obviously the code of conduct sits within the standing orders.
So to date, there's been no feedback into Matthew to feed into the standing orders committee or subcommittee, and that's the process. And until that happens, I don't think we can move this item forward. So could you put out an email to all councillors, just reminding them of what this was said and the context, and that anyone who's got some ideas of improvement of the code of conduct, our code of conduct, to feed them into you using your template, and then the standing orders and financial regulation subcommittee will review it. Is that an acceptable way forward to everyone?
Yeah. Can I just make a couple of comments? They're very quick, I think. Item 20.5, item C, is talking about matters where a matter arises at a meeting which is a sensitive interest. So I think that's a typo, because that section is all about prejudicial interests. To me, it doesn't make sense as it stands, referring to a sensitive interest.
20.2D is councillors need not register any interest, which is very right. Greens is a sensitive.
20.5, item C.
Page 120.
29.
Sensitive interest.
Oh, okay, I'm with you. It's in the wrong section. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to
It's in
say.
the wrong section.
And the other thing is, and this may crop up more than once, it's just I don't understand it. 20.3, item A, item 3, it ends with saying, so the council may continue to attend the meeting, blah, 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 provided that the public are also attending the meeting for the same purpose. I wondered why the public have to attend the meeting for the same purpose.
That will be something that's historical.
Oh, right.
No, that's good. No, doesn't mean it's right.
No.
I've captured both those comments, and what we can do is we can feed it back and have a look more into them, to see if they are correct or not. And if they're not, we'll work out a way of correcting them.
Okay, thanks.
Under 20.7.2, the word silenced is used, which made my ears prick up a little bit. Where is it? 20.7.2. Yes, it says here, may move that the person be silenced or excluded. I just find the use of the word silenced inappropriate.
Just wondering how we're going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I know Tom's left, but good luck with that. Yeah, I mean, you can't
Well, we'll
silence.
look at it again.
But that's why I'm raising it.
Yeah, a lot of this has just been brought through from standing orders a long, long time ago, but we'll look at it.
Yeah, I just made the one more.
Good, thank you.
20.7.2 C, the grammar is just a mess. Such a motion, if seconded, shall be put moved without discussion. That doesn't make any sense.
It probably doesn't need the put.
Yeah, but again, thank you.
And just from a personal point of view, 20.8, councillor officer relation. What if the councillor needs to? Yeah, it's saying that we can't say things in there. The role of the officer to give advice, that's fine, to give councillors, and to implement the policy determined by the council, that's fine. Councillors should not call into question the performance or conduct of an officer at the council in a public forum. There needs to be some recommendation of how a councillor raises a concern that they have, because councillors should raise concerns.
20.8.4. Procedure for councillors, things go wrong. In the event that the member is dissatisfied with the conduct, behaviour or performance of an officer, the matter should be raised with the appropriate manager.
Right, accepted, that's fine.
Okay.
In 20.8.1, I think the word honesty is missing. It's just not brought up anywhere.
Okay, we'll.
And equally in 20.8.2. I mean, you've got the word respect, dignity, and courtesy.
That's where I put the honesty in there.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm suggesting.
Yeah, that makes sense. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Carol?
Yes, taking Martin's point about 20.8, we've got the answer, but it's in 20.8.4. It maybe is a point for having a brackets with reference to the other points that people know. That, okay, you can't do that, but when can you? So then, please refer to.
Please see,
From 20.8.b to cross-referencing 28.4 or the other way.
Do both if you like.
Okay, those are easy ones.
So it's relevant. Yeah.
Anything else? No. Great. Town councillor expenses. Guidance is on 132. This one, my own view is I think we should defer this to the new council because it is quite an impact to define exactly what expenses would qualify, what expenses wouldn't. You just can't do that quickly if you're going to do it fairly. And I would suggest that it becomes a first agenda item almost for a future SNR for the new council. Carol?
I think it's the opposite, because I think if people are wishing to join the council, they ought to know whether there's likely to be expenses paid on that. I'm actually against having expenses for something that we all at the moment do voluntarily. And I think we should make that decision so people know exactly what they're entering into. If they want to decide against that next year, then fine.
So do you have a second for that proposal? Okay, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour for what Carol's saying, it's a no. Sorry, do you want to speak?
I'm agreeing with what Carol.
Okay, great. Okay, all those
So just tell me what the proposal is again.
No change on what it is today. There is no expenses other than the standard mileage of it. Well, yep, that's unanimous. I'm abstaining. Sorry.
Because we can review it later down the line.
Yeah.
But
Whilst I agree with Carol for the current council, because none of us, we do have an issue because they start being charged, I believe, in the car park across the street.
Oh,
I can use my scooter, but you know, if I use my car, I've got to pay to park. Now, that's not really what I'm getting at. I think Carol raised this, I'm not sure. I want young people to come and work on the council. There aren't enough of young people. I was going to say us then. So I forget sometimes. We all think we're 18 in our heads, don't we? But I want to encourage young people to come. And if they know that they can come and they can go to be elected as a local councillor, but any costs that they might incur will be covered, I think that's important for those people that will be standing in the next election. So what I'm saying is I don't want to defer it until then.
But we made a
We should make a
decision now to
decision.
say it's not going to change. There will be no additional expenses.
There will be no
Carol-
additional expenses for us, but for
No,
the next council.
No, this is for,
Is that what you said, Carol?
I was talking about the expenses, maybe I've got it wrong, talking about us getting paid to attend, which I think is an allowance. Do we get expenses at the moment? I don't know.
mileage allowance.
Yeah, mileage. Not that anybody claims.
Okay, so I'll use my discretion as chairman, scrub that last because of the confusion. All right, what we're talking. No, I don't think anybody agrees that we should have allowance.
No.
Particularly since you're going to have to pay tax and you're going to have to pay NI on it. Right. So now we're talking about additional categories other than mileage to pay expenses.
well, I think we will need parking charges, won't we? We will need to be able to claim those.
Go on your bike, you won't.
Hmm.
Walking, everybody.
But then you get into a whole world of paying about, what about childcare?
There's a number of councillors on Wokingham, well, I say a number, there are councillors on Wokingham Borough who pay their childminders and babysitters from council expenses. I looked through it all. And frankly, whilst I thought, well, they're charging us, the council a lot, I thought, well, they won't go to council meetings if they don't get it paid. So that's another category.
Yeah, and I probably down the pub, I could give you another 35 categories, and that's the problem. I think it needs much more consideration. It's something you shouldn't be rushing into. I think it needs a lot of time spent on it to decide whether it's appropriate, whether we can afford it, those sorts of things, which is why I originally was saying, let's push it into the next council with an agenda item, be it on full council here, to set up a working party or a subcommittee to actually spend time looking at what other, because we're a parish council, that's the legal definition of us. We're a parish council. You know, Early Town Council doesn't give any of that. Working Town Council doesn't do any of that. I doubt if any of the parishes do that, to actually spend the time and make a decision or recommendation on the basis of that investigation. So that's my proposal. Can I have a second, please? And then all those in favour of doing that? All those against? Right. No abstentions. The venue charity hire rates. I guess it's putting an on the officers.
Yeah, essentially this came up, and at that full council meeting, it was requested that Strategy and Resources reconsider how the council considers requests for free use. Some years ago, we put something in place. If someone wanted something for free for a charity event, it came through this committee, so the whys and wherefores and then be considered, and that's the process that we do. It was requested that that be reviewed by this committee.
Good request.
I'm not sure.
Was it a council?
Yeah. I would agree with it.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
It was your mate who runs a chilling company.
But Bill saying, councillor Griffin, this doesn't happen very often. You know,
But he was against doing it for nothing. That's how this came up.
my mind, there's only been two, I think. The Me Too Club, but you negotiated to get the, what's his name?
Yeah.
So there was a quid pro quo on that one, and the previous one was the Woodley Business Club. Now gone elsewhere. That's the only two in my whole experience of being on council.
We also had your request earlier in the year as well for the,
Mayors.
Oh, the mayor's.
Mayor's thing.
What I would chip in is just to say that the fact that any such requests do come to this committee to be considered is consistent, so that there's no.
I think it should be as and when, really, if it's so
Yeah.
random. It's not, if it was all the time, then something should be decided upon, but I think if it's like once in a blue moon, then it should come to this meeting.
And there is already a rate for charity gifts.
I think as long as we've got a process and some principles that we adhere to.
So can I propose that there is no change on what's happening now? I have a seconder on that. All those in favour of that, no change. Any future agenda item? No. Any publicity, consider items to be publicised on the website? No. By the way,